The phone was ringing, so I had to get that, see if we can pick up where we left off. One afternoon, the teacher announced that the school dance would be held that Saturday night at the church hall. Several of her classmates asked Angelina to go, but she smiled bravely and shook her head. I wouldn't be much of a dancing partner, she laughed. Rink was struck by the wistful note he heard in her voice. She comes from a dancing family, he thought. I bet she loves music. I bet she really liked to go to that dance. The minute the teacher's back was turned, Rink slipped out the door. No one noticed except Angelina, who glanced back at his empty chair every now and then. She marveled at how his absence could take the shine off such a pretty sunny day. When Rink reached his home, When Rink reached his home, high on Lonesome Mountain, he went straight to his Uncle Dud's room. He rummaged under the bed until he came up with several feet of Fat Lucy's shucked-off skin. Next, he dug through his mama's bowling bag until he found a needle and a spool of silk thread. Then, in the tumble-down shed off the kitchen, he turned up an old leather mule saddle. He's collecting some interesting things. Rink sat down and cleared his mind. He thought intently about Angelina's feet. He pictured their shape and size and the inch of space between her right foot and the floor. And then he cut and stitched and glued, and he worked right through from Thursday afternoon until Saturday morning. When Rink was finally done, there on the table stood the loveliest pair of snakeskin slippers that have ever been seen this side of Black Bear Creek. The sole of the right slipper was 1 inch thicker than the left, so Angelina could stand true and straight and tall. Rink imagined her dancing. He thought of that thought so long, and the feeling deep inside of him was so pleasant that even though the full moon had not yet risen, he sprouted a bunch of wild pink roses from the top of his head. So if you remember, one of her legs was 1 inch shorter than the other. So he designed and crafted a pair of dancing shoes for her that would make her legs be even, so she wouldn't have any kind of a limp or a kind of a wobbly walk. That afternoon, Rink followed the footpath down through the forest, across Black Bear Creek, along the dirt road, onto the blacktop road and up the hill. Halfway up the hill, he opened a small gate and walked up the little path that led right to Angelina's front porch. Angelina was helping her mama sew up a fancy new tango dress. The whole house was quiet, and every little snip of the scissors made a sad little tweak in her heart. She thought about Rink and how she had missed him all day at school on Friday. So you can tell that Angelina really likes her friend Rink, and that's probably how she has good days at school. Somebody who really seems to understand her. When Angelina heard a knock at the door, her heart flipped. There stood Rink with a bunch of wild pink roses in his left hand and a pair of snakeskin slippers in his right. "These are for you," he said, as he offered the slippers to her. "If you wear these, you'll dance just fine." Angelina wriggled her bare toes into the slippers then and there, and for the first time in her life, she felt herself stand up straight. She took one step and then another, and then she did a little practice dance step. Angelina looked at Rink with delight. he had made him fit her just perfect. "Will you be my dancing partner?" she asked. "Well, I don't know how to do that kind of dancing," said Rink shyly. "I'll teach you," cried Angelina. "I've watched my family so many times, I know all the steps by heart." And she took his hand, and they danced together down the path. Looks like they went to the dance. After the dance, Rink walked Angelina home. They stopped on the way and sat under an old buttonball tree. Angelina told Rink about her family, and he told her about his. And then, with a pounding heart, he revealed to her the fact that he sprouted flowers all over himself during the full moon. Angelina smiled with delight, and then she bent down and showed Rink where the flower she wore grew right out from behind her ear. From that day on, Angelina Quiz and Rink Bowagon were fast friends. Angelina wore her snakeskin slippers every day, and when the slippers wore out, Rink made her another pair. He has been making all of her shoes for 25 years now. The two of them have their own house up on Lonesome Mountain, only these days it's called Sweet Blossom Hill. Gardening is how Angelina and Rink earn their living. Actually, it's a family business. You see, every one of their 7 children was born with a green thumb. Sounds like a pretty sweet little story. Thank you for putting up with our interruption. And I'll look forward to seeing you again next time we have a great book to read. Bye-bye.